This brings us to our second panel discussion of the day, which is about the art and science of talent sourcing seduction. Please welcome the panelists. Panelist Adeel Shareef, Acting CEO, PSTD. Tanweer Alam, HR Director, Oxford University Press. Please come on stage. Hasan, Z2C, Manager, Talent and Engagement. And this will be moderated just due to lots of COVID cases amongst our panelists. So we all would like to pray for those panelists who are suffering from COVID. May they get quick recovery. And this panel discussion, just wanted to cross-check, will be moderated by Zafar, Aziz, Osmani Saab, CEO Accelerate. Please come on stage, sir. You can set the ground rules over here if you want to take the questions simultaneously or after the discussion. Completely up to you and the panel. Thank you.
Thank you for an exciting morning discussion. It's a pleasure to be here. First of all, I want to thank Ustaad for really persistently organizing against all the odds. And again, we have this new wave of pandemic. We see I'm putting a mask, and I was very happy to see Adeel following the SOP when he was moderating. I request everyone that please, this is some time. It's a good idea to keep my mask away. As long as you're speaking, maybe you're safe distance, I will take the chance because it's very interesting. It's a very interesting topic that has been selected, and the gentlemen on the panel, thank you so much for coming in a short notice. Perhaps you didn't have time to deliberate on what we're going to talk about. It was intriguing because when I read, I realized that Ustaad, by selecting the topic, is creating a new dimension in understanding of the human connection. When we are dealing with candidates and talent, there is a human connection which is important. I wish there was a topic was displayed. Can you do that? Or? You can't do it. Okay. There should have been a background slide. Let me just read it to you, the topic. It is the art and the science of talent sourcing. But it says art and science of talent sourcing seduction. And that sort of, opened my mind. That, the term that we have been using from our good youth days in a certain particular context has now been given a much broader dimension. So seduction for talent is obviously, I did try to read it, that am I misunderstanding or am I doing the right understanding?
Hasan,
so I found.
What kind of tools you use?
Yes, sir. I talk to you also. That makes it actually, I don't even want to say what kind of tools you use for seduction. That's, I would like to, thank you so much, I would like to, I was trying to compliment you for choosing the term because when I researched, I found that this is not any wrong selection or choice of word.
Okay.
So the word seduction, ladies and gentlemen, will require a human interaction to influence someone to accept something. Okay? So this is a very interesting topic. So basically, and again, as the way that re-emphasizes focuses on sourcing, talent sourcing, and what kind of tools should we be using for talent sourcing. And in the earlier presentation, I did raise a point of gamification. That's a very popular thing, and my friend Paul Kaiser is actually working in Pakistan, and he has done something maybe next time to try for the benefit of all of us to learn what's going on. Let's find out. But I thought that perhaps we have not fully made an effort to understand the impact of gaming on sourcing and sourcing talent, right? So, mashallah, I welcome our, unfortunately I don't even have the names of the right names of the talent, the panelists, if you can just. Yeah, no, it's perfectly alright. I know Adeel, very sweet gentleman, as a person and acting CEO of Pakistan Society for Training and Development. Great, mashallah, welcome Adeel. I think you've been caught off guard, but don't worry, I'm sure you will talk a lot about it. Tanweer Alam of Oxford University Press. So, I mean, that's a great, learning platform where you create material tools for learning of others, which now, you can also guide us on what is your perception. And this is Hasan, Z2C, Manage, Talent and Employment. Yeah, all of you are welcome. And let me start with Mr. Haris. Is it Hans?
It's Haris.
Haris, it's okay. So you make the end with I. To my apologies, sir. It's Haris, sir. What's your perception of this art and science of talent seduction?
I'd also like to compliment Ubaid on the selection of this name. I think it's an excellent name. It's very interesting because it mentions three very important things that are relevant to this topic, which is like art, science, and seduction. Right? Seduction, most importantly, because that is exactly what it is. So when, as an employer, as a company, what you're trying to do is you're trying to attract the employee, the candidates. And what seduction is, seduction basically says seduction carries a promise, whatever that promise. Any kind of seduction, it could be the promise of wealth, it could be the promise of love, it could be the promise of adventure, for example, right? So it depends on what kind of company you are, the kind of company you are, and will depend on what kind of, how you seduce your candidates, right? And what you offer your candidates. So I think it's an excellent choice. And the art and science, I think, is also relevant because there are two ways of making that seduction happen. One is, and they both have to do with knowing your audience. You have to know what attracts them, right? What they want. So the science of it could be you could interview candidates, you could have focus group discussions, you could have surveys, and that will tell you what the candidates want, right? Quite effectively. And then there's the other part of seduction and knowing your candidate, knowing your target audience, is by intuition, by empathizing with your target audience, by standing in their shoes. And of course, it also means that you have to be creative when trying to attract your target audience. So I think the name captures the whole scenario very well. And I just sort of jotted down a few points. So I come from a marketing background. So in a previous sort of life, I was a marketer. And I feel like when we talk about employer branding, I think that's spot on. We talk about, so a brand is defined by, what is a brand? A brand is, one definition of a brand is the promise of consistency, right? When you look at a brand, any brand, and if it's a well-established brand, when you see that brand, you know what to expect, right? You know what to expect, you know to expect good service, or good taste, or whatever, happiness, adventure, whatever. So an employer is exactly like that. So you're a brand, and you're trying to attract your audiences by promising consistently whatever it is that you promise. And one point I'd like to make, for as far as sort of seduction is concerned, is a lot of times we try to attract candidates using the same sort of tools and same sort of understanding.
So I'd just like to welcome Nida Gazdar. She is the head of HR and admin for NBCC Group. Welcome, ma'am. You missed the earlier part of introduction of the topic, but I'm sure panelists will get you the proper orientation.
No problem, I'll just get it.
You remember the topic, right?
Definitely, I
You do?
Yeah.
Good. So carry on.
So so one example I just wanted to give really quickly before I really start ranting is when I was talking about empathizing. I think one of the things that we should try to do when we get new candidates, especially with the younger lot, we should note we should try to understand where they're coming from, right? What their environment, which environment they live in. So one simple test that I think every organization, every employer should do I would call it a mom and dad test. What is that mom and dad test? It's only for your understanding. It's not really a thing. I'm just calling it that. It's that when a young man or a young woman go and work in a company and they accept an offer or they're considering an offer, they come back home and then their parents ask them, कहाँ इंटरव्यू करने गए थे आज या गई थी? And they're like, हम लोग XYZ company में इंटरव्यू करने गए थे. And their parents are like, what? I've never heard of that company. I don't think that's a good company. Why don't you work for a better company? For example, right? They might say that. So one of the tests is to understand what environment your candidates are coming from. For example, my dad is mashallah 80 years old. He still asks me every now and then. He still calls me and he doesn't. Honestly, he doesn't know where I work, right? Sometimes he calls me and says, "Beta, why don't you work for the state bank, like out of the blue, or why don't you work for the government, right?" And he asks me that because to his mind, those are the most attractive employers in the world, right? So if I'm trying to sort of impress my parents, and if that was important to me, then I would sort of be working in state bank or the government, right? So I think that's a very important test to keep in mind as an employer. You should know what your candidates value, what your audiences value, and if you know that, then you can.
Thank you. I think you're making a great point about the employer branding. So that's something that we talked about, and of course, state bank name, irrespective of what kind of career growth it offers now. And what kind of thing, but it's a name that parents and families would like to take pride in. That's a very important fact. Thank you so much. Janab Tanweer Saab, what's your take on this subject?
Yeah, I think my colleague has briefed and connected the word of the topic very precisely. So yes, art and science is the combination of the process of the sourcing, and I experienced in talent acquisition to present your brand and your jobs, and the person you are looking for is your art, and engaging the candidates is science to bring them on a way you want him to be, and the seduction is a part and parcel of the process, and without that you won't be able to engage. And we will be discussing and talking from the morning about talent acquisitions, candidates experience, and how the employer presents and brands. So I was hearing different aspects of talent acquisitions. So yes, this topic, and the most important part, where did the right thing to make the Osmani Sahib as a moderator for the topic. That is the very important to bring the panelists on the front to talk on the topic. So I am very glad that Osmani Sahib is in front to talk on the topic, and I will allow my other colleague to talk on the subject.
Thank you so much, sir. Actually, I'm not in the front, I'm a moderator. You guys are in the front as a panelist. Adeel, thank you so much. A very good points that you made. I think complimenting what Haris has said.
I think I'll take the science and technology part.
It's all one. You can't take away one from another.
That's why I actually covered the behavior part and the mental part.
Okay.
So I think this is quite a big role of technology in all these outsourcing, evaluating behaviors, identifying patterns of people for outsourcing, empathizing situation. So technology, the use of technology is quite sufficient to identify all these tools, to bring the efficiency in the process, to make your sources you want to hire their feeling, what they're going to experience, how their family feel. It's a very easy, there are multiple ways to evaluate these things through different tools. The only thing is we have to make our process efficient, that we can easily make through digitalization. So that is something that we need to work, so we have clear outcomes, how people look towards our organization as an employer, what the candidates are thinking, what kind of experience they are. So we need to map this experience, mapping, learning what they are experiencing with us, and that's easy through digitization. We have one simple example that was mentioned, that one company, Talent Leon, that was started by China as a foreign language company. So they bring disruption in Pakistani market in terms of outsourcing. So, but there are other elements associated with that we can work and bring efficiency and new knowledge through digitized processes.
Sorry, thank you, Adeel. Thank you. I think you did talk about the digitization playing a big role, and in Pakistan now, it is, I mean, in West it has been there for some time, the personality behavior analysis for selection of talent, there has been NPIR and many kind of tests, online tests, and there are a lot of solution providers. I think NHRSG has a solution to offer where you do the personality test to analyze the behavior patterns and how can one understand the specific competencies and requirements of the job and match individual behavioral strengths matching the job. And that is what I suggest you meant by digitization. I think that's a very important thing. These tools are being evolved continuously. Historically, there were 4 or 5 personality types, and now it has gone into individual, and making a closer association with the specific job that you require. So talent hunting has become a little bit easier, and some of the tools that we are using are the AI-based tools now, artificial intelligence tools, based behavior tools, assessment tools, and they go a long way because they are linked to the big data, which has a huge, human behavior analysis experience built into the reports that come out of it. That's a very successful thing happening. Nida, will you throw some light on your experience on some of these digitized tools for actually optimizing our efforts for the art and science of talent sourcing seduction?
Yeah, sure, of course, I'd love to do that, and that's why I'm here. Hello.
Yeah, sorry.
So I'd like to, okay, so I'd like to overall, would like to shed some light on this topic. I feel that in this competitive era, talent attraction, I would put this terminology forward rather than sourcing only because that's a wider umbrella. Talent attraction, I feel, is also coming up as one of the new challenges HR professionals are facing. And especially when I say talent attraction, you want the right talent to be attracted.
Absolutely.
So for that, as universities and as institutions are evolving and developing the best educational tools, similarly your upcoming talent, your pipeline is becoming more and more intelligent, and they seek better progress and better opportunities for growth in the organizations that they opt for. There was a time when the most sought after organizations for us when we graduated were like only the MNCs. I'm not going to per se name those MNCs because I want to do some employer branding for my own company, right? Rather than those big shots. So, but now as we see, the local companies are also evolving in a lot of industries. Local companies are coming up as the market leaders, the #1 companies. Now, why is that so? What are they doing to attract the right people? People, as we all believe, as HR professionals, we would all agree, people are the biggest assets for any organization. It's not the infrastructure, it's not the equipment that makes you the best. Your people make you the best organization. So when you talk about people per se, Now, maybe you are the best organization, but if you have a lousy, obsolete website, I mean, that is not something that a smart graduate would be attracted to. So, all of these smaller things that usually many of the organizations tend to ignore, and many are doing a lot of work on these, is that you should have a very user-friendly job portal and very exciting looking website so that people are attracted towards it. People do not know what's happening inside your organization. But these things are the face of the organization. These things are the first thing that you can connect with. Second thing I would like to shed light upon is basically employer branding. Everybody's talked about it already. But I would say, this very forum is also a good example of employer branding, when we all want to, represent ourselves, our organizations, our industries in the best possible way. So going forward, when we see social media, I mean, things spread like wildfire there, right? So the best strategy that any organization can use is to bank on the social media in the best possible manner. For example, when you talk about social media, you put up such things, you highlight certain initiatives that you're doing for your current employees. That kind of sets the benchmark for the people who are, if you want to emerge as an employer of choice, definitely talent out there, the potential talent you want to attract would definitely have some sort of, commendable view for your organization at least. And industry to industry, I mean, employer branding has to go beyond, recruitment drives at campuses. It has to go beyond that. Looking at the nature of your organization, many creative ways can be devised for that. For example, and also you need to have a right, if you are like suppose an MNC, the right global and regional blend of strategy also needs to be in place. Local level, you do customize that. For example, we in our organization have an excellent employee referral program and policy globally. And same is being considered now for Pakistan as well. So we are working on it. Now this is something that can also, not only motivate your existing talent to kind of like join hands and partner with HR, but also it will provide more of an excitement for people who would want to connect with your people. Usually HR professionals, everybody wants to be friends with HR professionals, right? That is the normal, a thought, a notion people have. But when you have employee referral programs in place, definitely that works. And one more thing that I would like to add on over here is, when you mentioned Zafar regarding written assessments and tests and tools. Okay, people also get very attracted to merit-based hiring process, so that tomorrow, for any reason, if you are not shortlisted or if you are not hired for that particular role, when you go back, you tell your group or you tell your circle or you tell your family that I couldn't make it. You don't go back and you say, oh, they did favoritism or they preferred someone over me because he was, connected to XYZ in the industry. So the more transparent and merit-based assessment tools you put in place for sourcing, for example, we use SuccessFactors in our organization. So everything is like all step-by-step. I'm sure a lot of companies are doing that. So it creates like a merit-based structure right from the beginning for any candidate. And a small thing that I would like to highlight here is, people are invited for an interview, and this is a story that a candidate narrated to me in one of the interviews. The person, he said, and without naming the organization is a big name and has a beautiful infrastructure. But just look at this, I mean, when you talk about talent attraction, the guy goes there, it's a beautiful office, and he's standing in the corridor, and there's no one, he's come for the interview, he's calling the coordinator, and there's no one to entertain him, he's just standing in the corridor. What kind of impression, do you make on that person? There's no guideline. So the minute the person enters your premises, there has to be a structured way or a structured process highlighted, and people should be assigned jobs locally inside your organization as HR representatives to guide those candidates in the best way, to not make them wait for so long, even if the director of XYZ department wants to interview them.
No, thank you, Nida. This particular aspect you missed Adnan's presentation. No, you missed Adnan, he is very elaborately thrown light on this particular experience. Thank you, panel. Before I would like to, get audience more engaged now, because you are here, the discussion is here for your benefit. You want to share any personal experience or questions, the learned panel, this is your time. So I would like, please somebody raise your hand if you want to ask a question. Don't shy, don't hesitate. This is your time to come and add value to this educative process. Any hand? Okay, please here. Can you get back to this here, please?
And then share it with the candidates, and then you can screen those candidates based on the interviews that they record and send to you. So you can instantly share those interviews with the hiring manager, multiple hiring managers, and multiple stakeholders who will be making that decision. So recruiter.ai is the one.
Recruiter.ai, note kar lein aap. Thank you so much. Here is the solution. I would like to thank all the panelists, and just to conclude, and before I conclude, I thank Ubaid again for introducing this topic of art and science of sourcing seduction. You, sir, have opened our mind to the human connection that I was talking to you about. It's sourcing, talent sourcing is about creating a human connection where you have the ability to influence and impress upon others. And that is the basic understanding of the term used. And we have now, alhamdulillah, learned more about it today, thanks to the great panelists. I would like to thank all of you participants for very patiently listening, and I am hopeful and confident that you are all now more educated about the talent sourcing and of course the tools that are available. Panelists will be available. Thank you, sir, for giving that tape of God bless you all. Thank you so much.